So I mentioned that I noticed there's some misconceptions when it comes to mental toughness. This doesn't mean people don't understand it, but a lot of times it gets associated with one thing or another that may not fully encapsulate what it truly means. So let's go over a few different aspects that I think can be better understood. For example, one of the biggest things I hear is either have it or you don't. I remember I had an actual client that I was working with. Mind you, we work on mental performance, mental toughness, cognitive performance, and all that stuff that goes with it, right? And he actually said, these are things you can't change. You either have it or you don't. Now, that's kind of ironic since he was enlisting my services. So I guess he had some kind of cognitive bias that he can improve his mental toughness and performance, but others couldn't. But whatever the reason he thought this, a lot of people agree with this mindset because they tend to see certain performers or athletes or whatever field they're in, how they execute, and they say all these traits that come with this person. If you notice them, that means that's a mental tough person. And if the other people they're working with or see don't have those same traits, then they're not mentally tough. And this is a misconception. Like I said, we did a study where we looked at personality measures and mental toughness to see what traits go hand in hand. And we'll talk more about that later on. But basically, thinking that you either have it or you don't, it dismisses a person who may need to work on being more mentally tough because they think, hey, if I can't do it now, I'll never be able to do it. And by that mindset, you'll never get better. And if you don't work on it, it's a reciprocating process. You got to work on things to get better. So you can work on mental toughness. This is a skill like anything else. Just like you will work on your running ability, you work on your decision making, your reaction time, your strength. You can work on how mentally tough you are. Now, going hand in hand with the either you got it or you don't mindset is if it's not broke, don't fix it. I've heard psychologists say you don't got to be sick to get better. And I agree with this because if you only work on something when it goes bad, you have a problem. Say, for example, if you have a car, do you wait till the brakes start screeching to change your brake pads? Do you wait till the engine starts making weird noises to decide to get an oil change? This is called preventative maintenance. And you can say the same thing about mental training. If I just wait till I'm going through a hard time, because some people do believe you can improve mental toughness, but they'll do it only when they're having a hard time or struggling. I've had people literally call me a day or two before the game or the performance and say, hey, I need your help. And me not knowing how close they are to this performance, I'm like, sure, what can I do? And we'll go through a whole consult and then I'll find out that's not a lot of time. Yes, you can do some things to get ready, but you need to take the steps beforehand because just like with most skills, you have to get used to them. You have to adapt to them and get acclimated. Imagine if you try to do a powerlifting meet and you only lift it once or twice leading up to the weeks to the meet, but on the actual day before you said, hey, I'm going to go for a max attempt. Yes, you can test out how much you can lift, but this is not going to give you much to your performance because you didn't really train anything. And the same thing with mental toughness and mental training. You have to build up these skills because they need to be ingrained in your mind. So when you need to use them, they're easily resourceable, just like a toolbox. You need to have them there in case they're needed, but you have to continuously work on them to make these tools better. Now, we live in a very individualistic society. And a lot of people think they got to do things alone. They congratulate working isolated and becoming stronger, better by themselves, which, hey, you can do that, of course. But together, each accomplishes more, right? Team. Like there's different services. Like a sports psychologist is literally enlisted so they can help you with techniques that have been proven through research and just with anecdotal evidence with their clients so you can get better. You don't have to do it alone. If you think that this is something I just got to get through by myself, that's one way to look at it, but I want to advise because if someone can give you more insight, even if it's not a professional, maybe it's another athlete that went through something similar, they can even help you. So don't think that's just me against the world mindset. Granted, in the grand scheme of things, yes, it is you against the world when it comes to the performance, but it doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. Now, this is probably one of the biggest ones I hear when it comes to being mentally tough is ignoring emotion. It's not about being stoic to the point where nothing is taken into consideration. I feel stoicism is a fine line. Yes, you shouldn't show every single emotion, but you can't disregard it either. You need to bring attention to what's happening because once you can know what the stressor or the anxiety or the worry is, you can build upon it because you've identified the problem. A lot of times people think if I just ignore it, it'll go away. It's kind of like a fire. If the house is on fire, you closing your eyes and say, no, it's not on fire. Does it mean it's not still burning? Yes, it still is. And it's just like that with your situations that you go through. If you keep ignoring it, it's going to eventually blow up in your face. So make sure you address the emotion, analyze what's happening. How does it make you feel? How is it affecting your performance? Then build upon it. And like it goes back to having help or assistance from a sports psychologist or some type of coach or even a teammate. They can help you get through this and understand that you can handle these emotions and then use them to your advantage. So segueing into this next misconception is thinking that nothing worries mentally tough people or stresses mentally tough people. Just like I previously mentioned, you have these things happening, you're getting stress, you're getting anxiety. It's just a matter of how do you cope with it and adapt. Because if someone has a test to take and they're worrying, oh my gosh, did I study enough? Do I have all the preparations I need? Or am I going to do well? If I don't do well, I'm going to fail. I won't graduate. All these thoughts aren't being managed well because the person who's mentally tough and can overcome it, they're thinking those thoughts too. It's just that they didn't let it get to the point where it overwhelmed them and took away the cognitive load to actually do said tests. You can apply this to a job interview. You said the wrong things, or even a sport. You made a crucial error, just like missing those free throws because you were so overwhelmed of what was going to happen. The worry is needed if we talk about something called the inverted U hypothesis. So imagine an upside down U. Now, on one side is low arousal and the other side is high arousal. Now, this means how ready are you for the action? So on the low arousal side, this means that you're not really up for it. You're kind of in your zone to a low degree, and things might be missed because you're really not into it. Now, on the other side of that spectrum, on high arousal, this means you're amped, you're ready, you're wired, where to go, what to do. But this could be detrimental too because now you're over analyzing things. You can make little mistakes because you missed it because it's so focused on everything, nothing got full attention. You need to find that happy medium. It may not be exactly on the middle, but you need to find out what gets you ready. If it's a worry, that's okay. But if it gets you so worried that you're all the way on this side, you're not going to have a good performance. So find that medium on the inverted U, what gets you ready for action. It may be getting music in the zone. It may be thinking about the game plan, listening to music to calm you down, listening to music to amp you up. But don't think the worries or stressors are going to disappear from the scenario. It's just a matter of how do you allocate it and use it. And this last misconception I'll talk about is they never fail. Everyone fails. When you think about it, people who become successful in whatever regard you might consider, they typically fail way more than people who don't make it to so-called success. It's because they've tried more. There's a saying I heard on this song a while back was, only way to lose is to fail to try. If you don't try, you lost already. Because would you rather have a person with the record of 0-0, they've never lost, but they've never won? Or you have a record of someone who's 6 for 10. That's 60% granted, but they've won 6 times. This is the same thing with life. You got to do things. If I don't apply for that job, granted, I won't know how it feels to get rejected if I don't get it. But what if I did get it and I got a new employment at a place I maybe want to work at? These are things that we don't think about because it's easier to say I didn't try because you don't have to go through the emotional stressors. You don't have to go to the physical effort and just say, hey, it didn't happen versus I put the work in. I may have not gotten it or executed the way I thought, but I could build upon this so the next time I can get better. So failure should be embraced. It's not saying that you want it to happen, but it's that you know it's a possibility, but it doesn't deter you or scare you because a mentally tough person realizes all this. They see threats, they see challenges. The more you see threats, the less likely you're going to try. The more you see challenge, the more likely you're going to overcome because a challenge has an outcome that says, I can succeed still. A threat has an outcome that says there's no point of trying because it's going to end badly. So determine which one's which, and that way you can get better at what you're trying to do.